All right. Welcome back to the BG Perform podcast. I know you might not recognize my co-host.
Oh my God. Fuck. I don't know who I am. I don't know.
Jerry shaved his beard a little bit too much. So we're gonna just come out and say it just in case.
We've all done it. We've
We've
all
all
done
done it.
it.
I've done it before too. I
You look in
actually,
the mirror and you just say, "Oh fuck,"
yeah.
and then you just have to keep going. You have to.
Oh my God, that's the worst. That's literally the worst. But
Uh,
so we're here, we're back. Today, we're going to be talking about building principles for success in health and performance. And there's a couple different areas we're going to go with it, and a couple ways we want to talk about it. But biggest thing that we want to talk about today is how you can, we want to give you some takeaways from today that you can go out into the fitness world and start to build upon, that you're not going to be overwhelmed or coerced by these people in the fitness industry and some of these places where you know I think a lot of the times these people have, actually, I'm not going to say they have good intentions because they definitely don't,
yeah, they
but
don't. Yeah, that's
th-
the bad part.
they're trainers. They're trying to, to a certain extent, help people, but I think at the end of the day, there's things that go along in those environments that make it very hard to be uh an honorable trainer, right? So the 30-minute AM tap, again, as much talking as possible inside the 30 minutes. Are you ready?
I don't feel like me, but I'm ready.
That's
I'm
okay.
ready.
He's there. I know it doesn't look the same, but he's there. He's there. Ready? Three, two, one. Boom.
Let's get it.
All right. So when we talk about building, the principles
Shit.
for health and performance.
I'm
All
sorry.
right. As we talk about building the principles of health and performance, I got you. Don't worry. If he doesn't make it, we'll be all right. But we really want to start at having the principles and having like a baseline understanding of what we need to be successful, right? And I think what happens a lot of the times and what makes it so difficult for people to actually understand the gym setting and understand health and fitness and how to implement it into your life is that they have no principles to base things off of, right? And I think I talked about this last time, but I was I was reading an article from a marketer, and he sent something out, and it was about, the details of building a landing page. And he was using all these fancy words and marketing terms and technical terms. And I was like, God damn, I wish I understood this like I did fitness. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, you know, do I not understand this, or is he just making this kind of like unnecessarily complicated to the point that he seems like he's an authority figure in that field, right? And when I started to think about it this way, and I started to think, I immediately correlated back to the fitness industry. And I think about how people explain fitness and how they explain exercising and how they explain all this stuff. And even to someone like myself, sometimes it can confuse me, right? And I see things, I'm paying attention to the fitness landscape, and it can be confusing because you got one person who's like, hey, try this, and the other person's like, if you do this, you're going to hurt yourself. And the next person's coming in the middle, and it's just this back and forth, right? And I think the biggest struggle with someone like, or let me start with someone like me and Jerry, right? We dedicate our lives to this stuff. My life is coaching. My life is fitness. My life is performance. And my goal is that, my brand and our brand and the thing that we're building is the North Star for a lot of that stuff, right? And I get confused. I'll admit it. There's sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, wait a second, like, I've tried this before and this works. And I got this other dude over here saying, I don't, it's not something that I fall victim to very often nowadays, but it is something where it's like, all right, well, like, from people I trust or people that I listen to. And this is something that I've done very intentionally over the last 2 years, is really kind of dwindled down who I actually listen to, right? There's very few people I actually let inside my head in regards to fitness and health and performance. And I do that for a reason, because these are the people that no matter what time again, when I've turned to, they've always had something that's given me to think about, right? And now as I'm starting to myself step into that level, I believe I'm stepping into that level where I believe I can help a lot of people, and I believe that we can help a lot of people. We have to have our principles, and we have the things that we believe in set, because if we don't and we start to get dragged around by the new methods and markets and things that people are going about, it's going to get very confusing very fast. And it's so easy for someone who has no understanding of fitness and is just struggling and wants to get in shape and has these dreams and goals to be led down a path of buy these supplements. You have to work out at this time and this date. You have to work out with this equipment. It has to be this way, right? It
You
has to
have
be
to
this
eat these
way.
meals.
It has to be this way. You have to eat these meals. You have to use these supplements. You have to eat 30 minutes after you work out. I think this is when we talked about it. It was on 2 episodes
Yeah.
ago. We talked about,
Anabolic
the
window.
protein after, right? And I think it's so hard for someone who doesn't understand. And I take that into what I felt when I read that marketing thing. It's like I just don't understand marketing enough to really, I'm just cleaning off my camera. I don't understand marketing enough to actually fully understand, like, all right, is this guy for real or is he bullshit? Right. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, oh man, this is what people feel like when they go into these gyms and they're just being sold nonsense by these people who just are reaching a quota or just trying to, fill their pocket for the month. And they do this continuously, right? And we mentioned this in the last podcast. Gyms are built off of you not showing up. A lot of these bigger gyms,
Mhm.
like I just need to make that, uh, you know, more apparent if I didn't already. But these big gyms, these big box global gyms, they're built on you not showing up, right? That's literally part of their budget and part of their, I guess finances is people who don't show up who pay for memberships, right? And actually, if you looked at it, if you actually had all those people show up to the gym, a lot of those gyms wouldn't be able to have the capacity to actually with to what's the word I'm looking for? To handle all of it, right? They wouldn't
Mhm.
be able to handle all these people that don't pay if they actually showed up to the gym. So I think one of the things that I want to leave you guys with today, as we get into this is I want you guys to leave with a sense of confidence of where to start around, how do I navigate the fitness industry? How do I navigate walking into these places? How do I find a place that I know is good for me to work out? How do I find a place that I know I don't need these supplements, right? Because I think it's so hard. I'm going to let Jerry speak here in a second on it because he was kind of the catalyst of this topic today. And I think that there's so much that goes into this, and to me, as I've been in the industry for so long, it's so simple for me to kind of step back and filter this stuff out, right? And be like, all right, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. But it's hard. And I can really understand even from someone who's just like, I just want to be fit. I just want to look a little bit better, feel a little bit better. Or you have the extreme examples where it's like, I want to gain weight, I want to get stronger, or the extreme example of weight loss. I want to lose weight. I don't want to hate myself. I don't want to look in the mirror and not like what I see anymore. And you get people who hit very hard, like they hit pain points so well that they could tell you anything, right? And I worked with someone who was a very good salesman, and I worked with someone in the setting in Florida who was, sometimes I listened to him talk on the phone. I was like, what the fuck? And he was just ringing it in, sale, 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 sale. And I would just listen. I was like, is this normal? Like, is this what these guys do? Because that was the first time I've ever been around it. Because even my experience was I never worked for like a global gym or like a global gym. I've never worked for one of these big box gyms. I've always worked by myself or had like my first gym where I was the salesman, right? And it shows because, I fucked up a bunch of sales or I wasn't, as forward as I needed to be with some of these sales. And you see it with the confidence, some of these guys who are just there for the sale. It's kind of scary. I want you to talk, just kind of give your opinion on this, but yeah, it's something that I think needs to be talked about, and that's why we're doing this today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I think it's a fortunate thing because I can look out for it and I've learned a lot. And I mean, we wouldn't be having this discussion if it wasn't for me working in these big box gyms. Um, but like I've seen sales and not even like box gyms. Like I was in insurance during the pandemic when everything shut down for a little bit. And I've seen like salesmen for insurance and salesmen in the fitness industry,
Oh,
and it's all
Jesus.
the same tricks.
That's the
It's
worst.
all the same scripts. It's all it's all like you said, finding pain points. But what drives me nuts is I've seen people cry while shadowing or just being on the other side of the sale where I was just passively there to see how this gym operates. And these people will cry and be like, I really don't have the money. And they're just like, well, you just don't care enough. Like, and they'll like some people really, really push. And it's like there should be other options for somebody besides forcing sales down their throat. But like, as far as like there becomes a point where you need to know, like, is this person actually trying to help me, or are they just trying to make a quick buck? Um, and I feel like I've seen it a lot. And one of the biggest things that I remember is um the the amount of no's that came across the table when this was recently. I saw somebody trying to, they were just sitting down because the gym told them to sit down for their consultation. And they, when they were going through the consultation, like they didn't seem motivated. It was just one of those things where the gym made it seem like this is part of your membership. This is part of becoming a member to this gym. You sit down with a trainer. And they were asking all the usual questions they do. How often do you work out? What are your goals? But it seems like they literally just wanted a place to quietly use the stair stepper, elliptical, cardio machines. Um, and you could see in their eyes that they were piecing together that it was just one big attempt for a personal training sale for a package. Um, and when you saw that they weren't interested, the, I'm not even gonna say trainer, the salesman just kept pushing and pushing and pushing.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that like it's obvious that like it's important for the gym to grow, but it's important to see like when they're trying to literally just make money off of you or help you.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think not to cut you off, but I think like I see this a lot and I've seen it a lot where I think a lot of people have really bad priorities in their life. And I'm not going to sit here and
yeah,
lie. I think a lot of
yeah.
people make excuses and they have the wrong priorities in life where if they really did shift everything around, fitness isn't that unaffordable or that, you know, unaccessible, right?
Hmm.
I think what happens is, especially in the online world, it's just so like it's so accessible nowadays. I mean,
Hmm.
there's so many options, whether it's even our stuff like the Transcend program or the dinner party or the weight loss. Like those aren't absurd investments to make. I've invested absurd amount of money in programs and uh, learning and education and like if I looked at the amount that I've spent on education, like some people would call me crazy, but like to me, obviously it's gotten me to where I am, right?
Hmm.
I think if some people took that same approach with the fitness and they actually truly did, invest in it, there would be a lot of return for their investment. But in the same breath, I think that fitness has dug itself such a hole because it's now labeled as this sleazy kind of, people are just trying to make money off of you type of thing where, as I go and as I do like market research, I look online and I just see constant negative feedback about personal trainers and coaching and even the ones at the highest level, man. Like you'd be so surprised. You see some of these people who, are working, quote unquote dream jobs with some of these people and they're getting paid 30, 40, $50,000 a year on like professional sports teams, right? I talked to a guy that I know on Instagram and he's a coach at a college. I forgot the college, but anyways, he's a coach at a college, and he just made the transition back to college because he was working for a professional baseball team, and he couldn't have a sustainable salary while with all the travel with having a family. It's like, I think because of the industry and the lack of standards, the lack of stability, the lack or the such low barrier of entry, and how the most accessible form of fitness is global gyms, and it's such a vile place to be sometimes because of the your first interaction with somebody is I'm gonna run your pockets, right? And it's
Hmm.
like, how much can I get out of you? How many sessions can I get out of you? Will you buy something? All this stuff because you're just filling quotas and you're going through. When in reality, it should really be like, and this is what, kind of turned me off so much about the fitness industry when I first, ended up losing weight and really figuring everything out was like, oh, like this is bad. You know what I mean? And like I remember when I was losing weight, how difficult it was for me to put all those pieces together. And I struggled for so long because I had no idea where to start. And when I did have an idea to start, I was either rushed and had nobody to talk to, or even when I did, bro, I remember the first time when I lost, I was like 30 pounds down in the first 3 months of training. And some dude at the gym that I was at Bally's, was a good dude. I talked to him. Like I used to talk to him all the time and he saw me working. He was like, listen, I want to help you. Like I've seen what you've been doing and I'd like to help you a little bit. And I was like, okay, great. Like this dude's a trainer. He was huge. He was jacked. I was like, he must know what he's talking about, right? And looking back, I was like, oh my God, bro. Like, what the hell?
Just
He
like,
had
what
me
did he
on
have
some
me
like
doing?
carb cycling shit, and he was like making me hate food. And I told him, where I was at with everything, and I was making a lot of good progress. Honestly, this dude like stifled my progress a little bit and kind of put me in a position where I was afraid of carbs for a while, and I was afraid of like eating and it's crazy because, looking back, I've always said this, like looking back at my weight loss journey, it's taught me so much about the average person in this thing because I was the average person at one point, and I just find myself consistently just being like, "What in the hell, bro?" I remember my first personal training session I ever did at Bally's, and the dude was on his phone while I was doing like a chest press machine, and I was like, "How many am I supposed to do?" He's like, "Oh, 10." He was looking at his phone. I was like, "Oh, I just did 15." He's like, "Oh, sorry," and I was like, "Oh, okay," and I was like, "Is that what this is?" And then, thank God for my the people I have, right? And I remember Dean Lieber, who was like really my first coach who showed me that like personal training could be a career. And he
Hmm.
owned the CrossFit gym that I went to. And Dean was a crazy dude. And he's a good dude, like really good dude. Very smart, very, focused and driven. Now he owns a company called iLead. He does leadership stuff for people and businesses. But at the time he owned Black Sheep Athletics. And he was the first one who kind of showed me the depths and like the crazy depths of coaching, programming at its fine, like at its, the first time that I've seen it, different levels of programming, how to progress, how to scale. And I remember the first time we sat down and he showed me the book, what's it called? Uh
Kama Sutra.
no, Zatorsky Zatorsky's book. I forgot the name of it. Like really famous strength training book. But anyways, he showed me that book and I was like, whoa. I was like, so this is coaching and like this is real coaching, right? And I saw the gym, I saw he had competitive athletes, he had people that, had never trained before and they were all stepping onto the same floor training together, right? And that was where I really learned like, okay, this is a real thing. Like I can do this. I just got to figure out how to do it and how to fit in. And he was a big reason why I'm at where I'm at today because he kind of showed me the ropes in the beginning and kind of gave me confidence like, okay, like if you want to do this, you can do it. That's one of the things. He was so straightforward about so much shit and he just didn't really like waste time with it. But he also liked to cause a lot of trouble. I remember when well, there was a lot of stuff during politics and obviously at the time it was basically whoever, I think it was Trump and Hillary Clinton at the time. Like his first time when Trump first started running. And he would just go up to people and be like, "So, what do we think of Trump?" Just walk
Just
away.
stirring the pot
Just
immediately.
obviously it's so funny. But anyways, yeah, he was the first one who that there was showed me that training was real, right? And he helped me see through a lot of the nonsense and see through a lot of things that you see with a lot of these trainers. And my early experience with trainers was just like, oh, this sucks, and I was kind of I was put off by it. And
Hmm.
you can understand why because you get people who just don't care, and first personal training's honestly seen so much as like a stepping stone gig thing because people treat it like that, right? And I think for people now, as we transition, into like how can you 'cause honestly at the end of the day, I think we all know what's wrong with fitness industry, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of people who are either telling lies, on drugs, or again, just trying to sell you something, right?
Hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, there's a buffer that has to be built to that, right? And I think that if we do this the right way, meaning like BG Perform, you and I, Jerry, like, and whoever else becomes a part of this thing, if we do this the right way, my goal is to kind of leave a barrier. So like the bottom feeders are just there. You know what I mean? And if
Yeah.
like you want to be a part of that, go ahead. You're like, if you pay for that, you're going to get those types of results. And obviously there's great people who come from that, right? You being one of them. I'm sure there's countless trainers who started in that environment who have worked their way up. But at the end of the day, 90% of it's not going to be great. 90% of it's just there because they had no other choice or they didn't really know what else to do and it was easy. And, for me, I want to build a barrier so it's just like, we can see through that stuff and we see it so we can keep ourselves on our toes, but not fall into that shit. You know what I mean? And I think it really
Hmm.
like if I've talked about this a couple times on my Instagram, but awareness is key, right? And really understanding you, what you need, right? And understanding, you know, your what fitness truly is. And if we can really boil down consistency into its core tenets, right? It's consistency, right? It's realistically whatever goals you have, right? And really understanding that, and then being able to understand you as an individual. What do you really need, right? If you want to lose weight, the number one thing is calorie deficit and consistent training, right? Do you need to follow, a CrossFit program? No. If you need people around you, you gotta sit down, and one of the biggest things is just figuring out like, what do I need right now? Do I need someone in my face telling me what to do? Is it because I've had clients in the past, right? Even in Florida, I had a doctor who was a surgeon, and he was someone who well, I still work with him online, but he was someone who was like, listen, like I kind of know what to do, but like if you're not here, I'm not coming. And that's what he needed, and he was honest
Some
about it, and
people
he
just
was
need the
willing to pay
accountability.
to
Yeah.
have me there, you know what I mean? He just wanted someone to come, show him what to do, have conversation, let him enjoy the gym, and get home, right? And I've had so many of those over the course of time where it's like, "Hey, I can understand the gym, like, I get it, but, like, I just want someone there with me." You know what I mean? I just want someone to show me, make sure I'm not getting hurt, push me a little bit, that type of thing, right? If you need that, then yeah, that's fine, and you just need to find out, "Okay, I I know what I need to do and I know what I want, but I just need someone there." So you want to find someone who's able to help you in that way, right? If you need someone, if you're starting from scratch and it's like I had no way around the gym, you need to know that, right? And you need to find someone who you either trust, who you can find who's not there to just sell you, right? And awareness starts with this whole thing. Like this is where it all starts. It's awareness of what do I actually need, right? Do some research. Do some research on what the basics of fitness are, and understand if someone's starting to, again, speak in absolutes, tell you, if you do this, you're stupid. If you do this, it's dumb. Like I love the conversation because I've done CrossFit for a long time. I heard this argument for so long, which is kipping pull-ups are stupid. It's like, yes, if I brought a soccer ball into a baseball game, it'd be fucking stupid. Obviously, that's not the point of kipping pull-ups. The kipping pull-ups are for the sport of CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
And when people have this argument of like certain movements are stupid, right? There's less efficient movements. Obviously, we can be very clear about that. And realistically, where fitness starts to expand now, or where to a pro and con of it, right? We expand because of variety. People want variety. They want to try new things. They want to see different movements and see how things feel. This leads to positives because we get new movement patterns, we get new styles of movement, we get new things, right? But then obviously that leads to things where it's like stupid movement patterns or things that are inefficient or just don't make sense in regards to like the goal of the person. But I could argue a lot of things can change in regards to the goal of the person, right? And if we start at awareness, this is where you can kind of build in and say, "Hey, I understand exactly what I want. I understand what I need from you. If you're willing to give me that, then I can, give you what you're looking for, right?" But if you start to step into a room and you're like, "I know what I need," and they're like, "Oh, well, you need X, Y, and Z, and you need to buy these supplements," right? It's like, well,
Hmm.
maybe look the other way, right? And this is where it's, nowadays, I think these global gyms, right? It's just so hard to find someone who's honestly there to train, and you want to try to find a place that you can sit down and talk to the owner, you can sit down and talk to the head trainer, you can sit down and kind of have a conversation and see the other people that are training there, be able to talk to them, be able to build those relationships, because those are the people that are going to show you, right, what you're looking for. If you go into a gym and everyone's fat and out of shape and breathing heavy walking up the stairs to the gym, it's like, do you really want to be in that gym, right? If you go to a gym and, like I was with Black Sheep, and people are doing 30 unbroken ring muscle ups and snatching 225 pounds, I was like, God damn, I need to go to this gym and train because I want to do that.
Hmm.
Right. And that's what kind of shows that like this is real. Like the coach you're talking to is real. Like these are real results from real people. And I think that's a big thing is results. And I think if you're a new coach, right, who's trying to set yourself apart, you have to create that standard for yourself that even in the worst times, right, you're not going to just swindle somebody for a dollar, right? You have to keep that moral compass of no matter what, even in my worst times, I'm not just going to do something just for $1, right? Obviously, we may say yes to clients or say no to clients, or say yes to clients that we know aren't, our best fit early on for experience, but never in your life you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm just gonna do this just for the money," right? Like, to no matter what, take it for an experience and that's it. All right. So number one is awareness. Number two, anything to add to that?
I would just say goes along with awareness. Ask as many questions as you can. Um, Typically, if they are like the snake oil salesman of the industry, they're
Actually, you know
not
what we
gonna
should
know
do?
how to answer.
We should create a list of questions for people,
Fucking let's do it. Yeah,
like interviews. Let's do it. I'm gonna
yeah,
write that
I
down.
like it.
But anyways, go
Because
ahead. I'm
that's
gonna
one of
write
those
that down
things
too.
like I tell every single client that I have, um, if you have any questions at all, please ask them. I'm a giant nerd and I love to help any way I can. And if I don't know, I'll be honest and I'll find out the answer for you. There are plenty of trainers, and again, I'm right now I'm in a position where I'm working at a gym that I'm definitely the most qualified trainer. I'm I'm shadowing and going under training under people who have been there longer, and I'm spotting a lot of things that are just wrong. They say the wrong things, they have the wrong answers, um, they program the wrong exercises, and basically the whole session is shit. And I've seen, with my eyes, I've heard somebody that I was shadowing say, yeah, and like just tell them don't be afraid to really circle back to those supplements and just let them know like that it's really important for metabolism and recovery, and just say whatever because they'll just believe you. And I was like, that's not our fucking job, man. Like we're
Yeah.
supposed to help them.
Yeah.
We don't say anything because we want them to believe us. We say what is true so they can learn and grow. Like it's the amount of bullshit I've seen in these places is insane, and
It's hard. And
I'm
it
trying to
kind of
pull back the curtain so other people can see, you know.
and it goes into the next point, right? Is which the environment is first, no matter what,
Hmm.
right? You have to find an environment that's going to suit you for success. If you go into somewhere and you don't feel safe and you don't feel like you can trust the individual and you don't trust the environment, or it's in a bad area, or parking stressful, or you're going to walk in there every single time, it's like I'm already in a bad mood, that's not the place for you, right?
Hmm.
Like the second part of our five pillars for health and performance is environment first, prescription second, right? Or program second. It doesn't matter realistically the program. Like if we're being 100% honest, the program ends up being art, right? To us. The way that I think fitness should be is the way that I write fitness, the way that I express it, that's my language, right? This is different, very similar to Jerry, but different in the way that Jerry does it, right? Just like a painting. The way that we paint our program is different, right? But without that environment, without that people, the support of people, the trustingness, that the ability to actually settle in and focus on your workout, you're never going to make progress, right? And if you have awareness and you settle in on a great environment, the program is going to be that much more effective every single time, right? Now, the biggest thing is next is the pacer is always rewarded, right? And everybody who is consistent in time is always going to make better consistent gains spread across, their life cycle of fitness. And I think that if we talk about this and we move this from step point A to point B, if you have someone who is inconsistent with you, right, or isn't giving you time to actually blossom into who you're supposed to be, and they're rushing you through, say, a 6-week shortcut to shred or an 8-week shortcut to shred, or, I'm going to give you abs in 5 weeks, it's not the person, right? If you have someone who's, I'm always honest with everybody. I can't promise you you're going to get results in 6 weeks, but I promise you, if you give me 3 months of your time, at the end of that 3 months, you're going to be so far ahead of everybody and be in such a good position for fitness that for the rest of your life, whether you need me or not, you're going to make so much progress, right? You're going to be able to decipher this stuff, have conversations, put yourself in a position where you don't need to worry about this stuff because we've taken care of the hard part. The first month is always learn the language, build yourself into an environment that you understand where you're at. Second month is we start to dip our toes in the water, and the third month we dive in. And when you dive in after taking those first 2 months of like learning and growing, that third month you avoid all the speed bumps, you avoid all the obstacles, you avoid everything that has to go with that stuff, and you actually find results, right? Number four is less is more, right? Less is and what I mean by that is like take time to relax, right? If you have someone who's telling you every single session to go harder, go harder, go harder, and they end up just being a cheerleader. This is one of my biggest pet peeves with this stuff, right? Is well, there we go. Anyways, so less is more, right? And when we talk about less is more, we want to understand that, if someone's driving us to be put in a position where we always have to go harder, this isn't conducive to success, right? And we need time to relax. We need sessions that are more relaxed. We need sessions that are a little bit more intense, right? Because that's what drives adaptation. As we start to go through this process, time and time again, we're going to be able to see the pros and the cons of everything, right? And I think that the biggest thing that I can talk about is less is more, right? And if you have someone, like I said, that's always on that like go, go, go into a cheerleader, right? Which I just saw you shake your head before I got
Yeah, there's
disrupted.
a lot of that at the gym I'm at right now.
And it happens, right? And I think
Yeah.
that when coaches don't have the actual information, they struggle with the implementation, right? And when you don't have information, you don't actually know what you need to correct, or you don't know the talking points you need to have, you end up just cheerleading from the sideline and like, yeah, go more, because I don't know what else to say and I feel like I need to say something, right? I'm a coach who I don't always have words to say. Sometimes it's just looking because I understand what needs to be said and what doesn't need to be said, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the biggest positives and negatives that you can see in coaching is the positives like less is more with words and less is more with training. And then the opposite end of that, you get more words and more training when you don't actually know what you're doing, right? And last but not least, the last thing that I can talk about for the pillars of health and performance is compounding interest, right? And emphasis on the rest. The better you can rest, the more efficient you can become with rest. This compounds over time and allows you to actually improve your performance consistently. So and it's so important for you to realize this and understand it because this is what leads to real success in fitness. It's you resting, right? Recovering, because this is when all the positives happen within fitness. The better you can do that, the better you can go along with that stuff. This is where it starts to lead to, right? And I think that if we can really kind of get into this mindset of rest equals recovery, which equals performance, that's where we start to get all the benefits of fitness and health and all this stuff, right?
Hmm.
Any adding topics? I know I kind of sped through the end there just because I got to kind of speed this up here, but like anything else that you need to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say like when you do realize that you have a cheerleader, start asking more questions. Um, Make sure that they're actually not just cheering you on and that they do know what they're trying to take you through because the amount of people that I've had who was like, I've had a bad experience with a trainer in the past. I don't know about this. And then I start working with them and I see like why they hurt their back, why they had a shoulder issue and all this stuff that's like super easy to correct. I see it, but it's like, okay, they just had one of those coaches who was just rah rah all day. So it's just, again, more and more questions that you could ask, the better.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest questions you can ask is a simple one of what is the plan with my programming, right?
Hmm.
What are we doing right now? What does the next 3 months of programming look like for me? What does the next month of programming look like for me? Very simple questions that you can ask somebody and see their response. If they're like, I don't know,
I'd be
look
like,
the other
you
way,
should probably
right?
dip. Yeah.
If they're like, oh, well, I kind of have an idea, even another thing where you have to push that a little bit more and kind of ask that question. They're giving you real answers of like, well, this month we're going to be working on this, building up a base, and you start to see those things. But if you don't ask the right questions, you're never going to start to see those responses and that repetitive thing where it's like, this is where I need to be. This is how I'm going to get it. Right.
I want to touch
I
on
think
that
you're right. And I
really
think one
quick
of the things
too.
we can work on in the next couple weeks is a questionnaire for people to kind of take into a gym so they know the questions to ask. And I think it'd be a really good idea.
Yeah, I want to touch on that point you just made too
Yep.
about um you might get an answer back that sounds like it's a good answer, but a lot of the times it's just the ramblings of someone who's panicking and just they've they've given enough bullshit answers that they could take fitness buzzwords like we're going to work on core stability and we're going to make sure that you have a good foundation and we're going to do it. So like when you hear what they're giving you, that's and again, like you said, doing your research on your own, just be like, all right, like he used this word, what is it? Like a lot of it's just buzzwords. So just be careful.
Yes. So I do have to cut it here. I am sorry, guys. Maybe we can do a part two. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.